So I need to get my clay into position, and what that requires is pretty much the opposite of like a cup. So I wanted to start with a ball of centered clay that was a little bit taller than it was round because I was trying to work the vertical, but now I'm trying to work the horizontal. So I need to push it out. So I do cone it up, but I don't cone it up as hard. And when I push down a lot harder, and I'm pushing down, if you see like the cone rounded mound, I'm pushing down using this part of my thumb because it fits into this curve very nicely. Gotta add water though. And I'm using my left hand to push down the thumb. And I'm just kind of holding it here. As I push it down.
Are you trying to open at the same time?
No, I'm just being inconsistent with my pressure. So now there are a couple ways to do this. I like to do it like this. I reach across from me. So this is at like 11 on the clock face. And I just kind of keep it going.
Do you also use this part too?
No, I've been using consistently this part of my thumb. Sponges are our friend. So now I'm going to use the sponge to bring it out even more. So the frustrating thing with plates is the circumference, the relative diameter. So here, the amount of time it takes me to make one full rotation is very short because this is a very small circle. It takes me much longer to take one full rotation out here. So I need to be aware of the relative speed of my hands. If I try to go the same speed the whole time, it's not going to work. And the frustrating thing about plates is, you know, some people get them, some people don't, but they can be just as frustrating as trying to get that clay up an extra inch. You have to take your time and make sure everything is consistent before you move on to the next step. Whatever wobble you have right here, right now, will only exacerbate in the next step. So, as with everything, just take your time. You're in no hurry, you're on no one's timeline but your own.
Do you have a wide contact point or a small?
With this, you can have a wider one. You can definitely have a wider one with this, with a plate. But the relative speed is very important. I usually do like a wider contact point, like the point of a sponge, rather than just my fingers, because, I mean, I don't know technically why, just like the physics of it, it's the way that I work best. Maybe you'll discover you like something else.
I saw on the YouTube video, some people use the moving pen.
Yeah.
That just put it right there and
That cheating.
For me it is. Let's just say if my senseis or my laoshers, my professors saw me doing that, I would bring shame. So you're welcome to do it.
But we will bring shame.
It's fine. It's fine. Okay, so I'm gonna start in the middle. It's frustrating with plates because you're like pushing the clay out and you think you have it nice and even, and then you notice that it pops up in the middle again. Like the clay just does what it wants. try, and it takes a few times to get it right. You kind of want to have like a direction to your push of the clay. I'm not pushing straight down. If I push clay straight down like this, where does it go? It goes up on both sides, right? So you need to like, don't push straight down. You want to angle it as much as you can. And it's hard at this angle. You want to angle it as much as you can so you're pushing the clay out.
Would you say it's similar to using your finger as almost like a hook right now?
Yeah. I've had my most success with just getting like the plate done by actually like, how do I?
Sorry.
This doesn't make sense. Yeah, like hooking my finger in and kind of
That way you
like
get that
pulling it,
angle?
like yeah. I'm actually using my fingertip here, but I have the sponge to provide water because just like the area gets dry really fast. And then the sponge also helps, this like mound right here, the sponge keeps it down. You don't want it to get up too high. Starting to get dry, got a little bit of water. And you can see like my bottom isn't terribly flat right now. I'm just trying to get the clay out to the outer edge. This mound is getting a little too high for me. I push it back down. If I don't take care of this now, it might not reattach to the rest of the clay body. And then I'm just like,
Are you pushing down or also bringing
so I'm talking about this.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I'm asking.
I am pushing it down and bringing it out,
Okay.
but not in the same way that I'm doing this.
Okay.
This one, the down motion was only at the beginning, and then I just kind of pull it out, if you think like that.
I found this very difficult when I was trying to throw a larger piece, a lot of resistance when you try to throw out.
Start with 2 pounds of clay and maybe do 2 or 3 and then work your way up. I will say like the bats, the size of the bats won't allow you to do too much more than that. Plates are difficult. Plates are just, they take so much time to go back and smooth out what you did.
I did a set 8 pounds. That was
Yeah.
almost like 5 with the chocolate plate. No matter how hard I pull, it's just very hard to go out.
Yeah.
Because the rest of the wall is really thick.
So at this point, what are you doing wrong if it gets off center when you pull out?
Your relative speed, and that I'm talking about your hands and the wheel, because it's a comparative, they work together. Something is not in balance, and it could be either one, and that's up to you to figure out. You're either moving your hand too fast to the relative speed of the wheel, or your wheel's moving too fast to the relative speed of your hand, right?
I was very skilled at going too fast. Apparently that was my entire problem centering my entire life. It looks like you should be able to go fast.
So are you saying you have a different speed if you're working in the middle versus the edge?
Okay, so this is a really small plate and isn't too big. I've probably done like bigger platters the size of this splash pan, and by the time you get out here, this is about the speed you're going. Like, so the comparative of speed is huge. Here, it's okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
But you would technically you'd slow down the wheel as you go through the line.
Yeah. And then, like, this was pretty easy for me. I was able to get the clay out to the outer edge relatively easy, but if the amount of clay I was doing was all the way out here, I'd probably stop here, smooth it out before I started going on, right? So it's really just a practice in patience and getting everything right before, rather than trying to be like, oh, I'll just get this done and then I'll go back. You gotta just stop where you are and take care of it. Okay. So before, you can see I have this nice ring of clay right here for my wall. I'm gonna go ahead and smooth out this bottom of the plate. I'll start just with the sponge. You can use a rib. A lot of people just end up using the ribs as like scrapers. Like how the clay is coming up. Be careful that you're not just scraping a flat bottom. Or rather, be aware if that's what you're doing and keep doing it, but try to not do it as much. Try to work away from that. Because like I said, I operate under the impression that everyone's just going to become a production potter, and the reason you don't want to do that is because it wastes clay. So now I got my bottom pretty smoothed out. I'm going to start pulling up. This is also an exercise in patience because that one full rotation takes a long time. You really do not want to move your fingers up too fast. Because it's fun when you first learn how to make cups and you can kind of do it when you can really get like that good pull and do it fast. This is nothing but a patience and an exercise in patience. I said a patience and exercise.
On that, are you pushing from the outside to get your material to come up?
So you'll see that I like use my thumb to like scrape and get this indent. So that just creates the bump rather than like me having to push it out. I just create it naturally. The frustrating thing about plates is that they always take more clay than you want them to. You think, oh, it'll be 2 pounds. Give yourself 2.5. It's surprising how much clay you need out here to create even just a tiny ball like this. It's a lot more than you realize.
I think that clay, did you start with more clay?
2 pounds. This is,
One on the
oh,
plate. That's,
the first one had more clay than the second one.
it does the one.
Yeah.
This one here.
Oh,
How much clay did you use? For
I don't know. Probably 3 or 4 pounds.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
because it's bigger.
Yeah. So, as you can see, I'm just getting the clay into position. I'm getting the clay up from the bottom and just pulling it up. I'm really not trying to go for any form. And in this way, it's the same as the cup, at least in theory. So, another thing, the reason you need to give yourself more clay than you think you need is for what I'm about to do next. If this is the plate form you're going for, great, but I'm gonna show you how to get it out, like that, like flared lip of a plate. And it's important to remember when you build a cylinder and then flare it out, this gets really thin. because the wider it gets, it creates more clay, it stretches. So the natural reaction of the clay is to become thinner at the lip. So I'm trying to keep this pretty thick right here right now, because when I flare it, it's gonna thin out. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my wooden rib and I'm just gonna gently press it out. Getting a little dry and it's scraping the clay up, so then I'm just gonna add some water.
You need to be really conservative with water at this point.
Yeah, because if you just dump it, you're gonna oversaturate the clay and it's going to just fall. And you went through all of this work to get here. There we go. So the amount of pressure I'm using is the amount of pressure it takes so I can feel that I'm pushing down on the clay, but not so much that it just goes into position. It's at this point I usually say like the boredom of the demonstration is the point. If you've noticed yourself coming in and out, just think about when you yourself are doing it, because this takes focus, right? And that's fine. Like, but think about it. Like, if it takes me this long, it should take you at least this long. You can clean up the edges with the sponge. And the important thing with plates is that with cups you can wire them off and take them off and they'll be mostly okay. Plates need to stay on the bat. Do not take a plate off the bat until it's like leather hard. I would even wait. If you do it right now and then just move on, it is wet enough, it'll just reattach that you end up having to wire it off again.